So today we're going to talk about Eden. Eden. Okay. So when you look at the Bible or the scriptures and you find the word Eden, I'm going to start here on the left. This is the first translation you have of Eden, and it means pleasure, according to the concordance. And that is this word here, 5731. When you get into it, as we always like to do, to get into the detail, to go to the root word, you get to the second one, which says Eden, pronounced almost exactly the same way, actually. And it means luxury, finery, dainty, delight. So you get the idea of good stuff, you know. And then you drill much further to the primitive root or the original word. And again, it talks about to luxuriate, to delight oneself. So we get the idea that Eden is a description of a place or something that is pleasurable, that is enjoyable, that is where you go to delight oneself. Okay. Now, I was studying these scriptures that I have here, trying to find, first of all, wherever Eden is mentioned. And I thought, let me take a look and make some notes. So I've got some numbers here of different things that I noticed about the description of Eden. I'm not going to read every scripture. I'll just highlight what I've highlighted in green or yellow. So the first scripture there, Genesis 2:8, it mentions of a garden eastward in Eden. That's where Tatanzambi planted a garden on the eastern side or east side of Eden. The second one talks about a tree of life and a tree of knowledge of good and evil. So if you're looking for evidence, these items I've numbered here are some of the evidence you find in the scriptures of what Eden should contain. You know, there's a tree of life and a tree of knowledge of good and evil. And then there's the third one, which is a river went out of Eden. So there should be one river that goes out of Eden. And the next one says that that river parts into four heads. And the fifth point there is the name of the first river. That river called Pison or Pison is encompassing the whole land of a place called Havilah. So you could also look for a place called Havilah. And the river Pison that is encompassing that land of Havilah says that that land of Havilah, there is gold. And the gold of that land of Havilah is good. That's evidence number 6. Now, number 7 says there is bdellium and onyx stone. So it's a place with not just gold, but a few other precious stones or kind of stones. And then the name of the second river is Gihon or Gihon. That same river encompasses the whole land of Ethiopia. If you go into the concordance in the Strongs, you'll see that Ethiopia is referring to Cush. Cush, according to Genesis 10:6, is the son of Ham. Ethiopia is in Africa. We know the brother of Cush is Mizraim, which is Egypt, and also Put, and also Canaan. And the name of the third river, number 10, is Hiddekel. Okay. Some versions of the Bible might say Tigris. And it says here that this river goes toward the east of Assyria. So if you find Assyria, to the east of Assyria, you should find that river called Hiddekel. And then the last name of the fourth river is Euphrates. Now, some of you have probably seen me talk about the Euphrates before, and you've also seen me talk about Assyria, which is also called Ashur. All right, moving on to number 12. It tells us that the scriptures tell us there in Genesis 3:24 that certain Zambi drove out man out of the garden and placed at the east of the garden cherubims. So we should see some cherubims, or there could be some evidence of cherubims. And then in number 13, it tells us that Cain went out from the presence of Zambi and dwelt in the land of Nod, and the land of Nod is on the east of Eden. So 13 pieces of evidence, and I have a few more. And these are the few more. Let me click in here and move to the next one. All right. So what else is in Eden? Or how is it described? Number 15 is from Isaiah, and it says, "For Zambi shall comfort Zion. He will comfort all her waste places, and he will make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of Zambi." So this is describing Eden as a lush and very, very, I would say, green and prosperous and fruitful land, because it's compared to a waste place, like a desert place. And Zambi is saying he will make Zion to be like Eden, even if Zion is like a desert. And then you have number 16 from Ezekiel 28:13, and it describes Eden as the garden of Zambi. And it talks about every precious stone was the covering. And then it goes on to mention 10 different stones, starting with the sardius, going on to topaz, diamonds, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, emeralds, carbon, gold. I mean, place has a bunch of precious minerals. Then the last one, number 18, it's repeated. Tells us that in Eden, there are all the trees of Eden. That's in chapter 31 of Ezekiel. And you see in verse 19, it talks all the trees of Eden. And you go down to verse 16, it says all the trees of Eden. Verse 18, again, trees of Eden twice. The last one at the bottom is talking about a waste place that will be like the Garden of Eden again. So there could be a lot more in the scriptures that describe what Eden looks like. I just managed to find those 18 unique evidences of this, or descriptions of Eden. So now let's take a look at some of that evidence that we've gone through, those 18 different points. And in this case, I'm just going to walk you through 4 of them. We're going to talk about Ethiopia. We're going to talk about those 4 rivers, trees and stones, and we're also going to talk about the cradle of human life. Since we know that is where, in Eden, is where Zambi created first man, Adam and Eve. All right, so where is this Ethiopia? Now, of course, today we know that there's a country called Ethiopia. But was this country that is called Ethiopia in Africa always the same like it is today? Most definitely not. This description of Ethiopia was something else. So I did some digging around and I found this. This is a map posted or published by somebody. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a map, and I will give credit to Truth Unveiled. This is a video that was shared by Nick from Kenya. Some of you have also seen this channel. I got this from that video that was posted by Truth Unveiled on YouTube. So this map is a map of Africa. It's dated 1584. To the left here, it might not be very clear, but to the left here, it describes the ocean of Ethiopia. Calls it Ethiopia. It's not maybe very clear, but there are other maps that show the same thing. So what we call today the Atlantic Ocean was referred to as Ethiopian Ocean. That's the one to the west of the continent of Africa. It was referred to that way because the continent itself was referred to as Ethiopia, not just the little country we know of that is somewhere up there. Let's take a look at another map. This one is from the 1600s by Willem Blauw. Again, I got this from that same website of Truth Unveiled. And again, you see here, the same thing is repeated. Oceanus Ethiopiacus, Ethiopian Ocean. Why do they call it the Ethiopian Ocean? Because the land was called Ethiopia, the land of Africa. Okay, and that is the land that one of the rivers encompassed that we read a few minutes ago. Now, here is another map from 1710, a bit more recent. There might be somebody who's not on mute. If you could mute, please. All right, so this map is a map from Africa by this person, Herman Moore, dated 1710. And this big chunk that you see in the middle here is labeled as Ethiopia. And you can also see on the left here, it says Ethiopian Sea, okay? That's the sea just adjacent to the west of Africa. Then you have later on, they're calling it Atlantic Sea is west of West Africa. But they're calling this Ethiopian Sea. Let's zoom in and see what it says here. Ethiopian. So this is that middle section that was labeled as Ethiopia. And it actually says here, this country is wholly unknown to the Europeans. So the person that put together this map, that Herman Moore guy, he thought this was unknown to the Europeans at that time. Again, now we are seeing the continent is different, but then this is in 1700s, and now we have a territory within the continent that is called Ethiopia. And this is just about, 1700s. Let's look at some more maps here. Here we have another map from 1603, credit to the same channel. And you see that is Africa, that is the Horn of Africa on the right there. And you can see those rivers, and might not be very clear, but this on the left here is saying Ethiopian Ocean as well. Okay, I will zoom in. This one is a bit more clear. So there we go, Ethiopian, this is ocean. Okay, now, interestingly on this map, and this will lead us to the next piece of evidence. On this map, you have some rivers. This is called Tigray. It's also labeled as Tigray here. Now, let's talk about these rivers that we read about, the 4 rivers. Here is a map drawn by somebody by the name of De Virga. This is the oldest map I have seen of Africa. Again, credit to Truth Unveiled channel. I got this from there. But this is their version of what they thought Africa looked like in 1411. And down here, this circular band, they identified this as what they thought could be Eden, or the Garden of Eden. And out of it, you can see they've drawn 4 rivers. There's a first one here, second one here, third one here, and the 4th one here. Notice how, for example, this river that is in the middle goes all the way to the top to what we currently call Egypt and the Mediterranean. Notice how this river on the left goes all the way through like Angola and all those countries there, and goes on to the western half of Africa towards the Sahara. It's like they're all joined at the same time. Here is a modern map of some of the major rivers in Africa. Not all of them, just some of the major ones. You have the Orange River down in South Africa. You have the Zambezi River. You have the Congo River. You have what we call the Nile River. And you can see it extends a little bit farther down as if it would connect to the Zambezi. And then you have that Niger River, which we know is the Euphrates River. Here's a more detailed map showing the interaction of all the rivers and tributaries, major rivers and tributaries in Africa. This major water body here is currently called Lake Victoria. That's an English name. We have, and this lake is, I believe, the largest freshwater lake in the world. And this lake is actually shared by 3 countries: Kenya to the east, Uganda to the west, and Tanzania to the south in East Africa. It is the source of the Nile, which flows upward. Okay, we're just looking at those rivers. Here in the middle, close to the Sahara Desert, is what would have been Lake Chad. There used to be a big lake here, Lake Chad. Most of it is dried up now. But I'm showing you this map, showing you the blue bodies of water and the rivers, as well as the other rivers in orange, just to show you the integrated network of rivers in Africa. It's very likely that wherever they sprouted from, the Garden of Eden, they would have been interconnected. All right, let's look at another map talking about the rivers. One of those verses that I read in Genesis chapter 2, verse 14 says that the river Hiddekel is located east of Ashur. I talked about Ashur is also called Assyria in the Bible. Now, this is the Tigris River or the Nile River. And Ashur, as we have discussed before, is on the left side here, on the west side. So, and you know, this scripture says that that river flowed towards the east. If Ashur is on the west, then this would be the east of Ashur or Assyria. I've said it before, in case somebody is not aware of this, the river Nile flows upward. It doesn't flow downward. It comes from the source, which is higher ground down in like East Africa. And then it goes towards lower ground, which is the Mediterranean section of Egypt. So what do those 4 rivers look like? Again, give credit to Truth Unveiled. This is what they look like. I'll go clockwise. In orange is Hiddekel or Tigris, and that's the river Nile. It originates from around here, Lake Victoria. That's the source of the river Nile. And that red arrow shows that river Nile or Hiddekel, also known as Tigris. It flows from East Africa here towards the Mediterranean, and so it's on the east of Assyria or Ashur, which is in that green spot marked by the words. Then you have the yellow arrow. This one down here shows Pison. Pison today is known as Zambezi River. And I'll talk about, this is the river that is mentioned in the scriptures as having very good gold around it and a few other stones. We'll talk about that shortly. Then you have the blue one, which is the Congo River. The Congo River is not just in Congo, it's also going through Zambia and Zimbabwe and a bunch of other countries that are there. Then last but not least, we've talked about in purple, this is the Euphrates River, currently labeled as Niger River, okay? And for those of you who have watched one of the first sessions that we did, we actually looked at some maps that show that this river now was connected with this Niger River, which is the Euphrates River. In one of the maps we looked at, it is actually called the Great River Euphrates in there. All right, let's talk about trees and stones. Let me hide this here. Let's talk about trees. We mentioned that there were a lot of trees. Now, your guess is as good as mine. If you look at the map on the left here of Africa, that whole green section is not grass, it's mostly trees. Countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo in the middle here export a lot of timber around the world. And some people have told us for a long time that the Garden of Eden, or Eden itself, was up here between Iraq and Iran, or Iraq and Iran. I do not see a lot of greenery there, if any, that would say that there were trees. And the scriptures we read mentioned trees several times. There are still trees in this section here. I know there's no Ethiopia up there, so I wouldn't be looking up there for Eden, because Ethiopia would be Ethiopia and Sudan. This is Cush. That's what the Bible translates Ethiopia as. It translates it as Cush. All right, now let's talk about the stones. One of the things that was mentioned was that there was a lot of good gold in a region near the Zambezi River. The Zambezi River would be around here where Zambia is, and it would also be down here where Mozambique is. This is Mozambique. So it would go from here, where I'm showing my mouse, just below Zambia, and it traverses like that and goes, see if it's going, curling towards DRC, but coming back out again into, see if it wants to go to Tanzania. Now, according to this legend, you can see how gold looks like. There's a little orange bar. So let's just take a look at how much gold there is in here. I can see gold in Zimbabwe. I can see gold in Mozambique. I can see gold in Zambia. I can see gold in DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. I can see gold in Tanzania. I can see gold in Uganda. I can see gold in Kenya. I can see gold in South Africa. I could keep going on and on and on about gold. And that's just gold, which the scripture says there was a lot of. Now, what about if we look at just a few other metals, okay, in this region? This is Somalia, they have uranium. This is South Africa, they have uranium. This is Namibia, they have uranium. And right now, there's almost a conflict going on in Niger, which has a lot of uranium as well. That's just one other one. But then there's another precious metal called diamond. Diamond. South Africa, Botswana, Namibia, Angola, DRC, diamonds. I could go on and on about the rest, but we don't have time for all that. Let's talk about one more piece of evidence. All right, I want to talk about the cradle of human life. What I'm showing you up here, this is a map of Africa, of course, and right there is a body of water called Lake Turkana. That is in Kenya. Okay, below it, still in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, is Lake Victoria. But where that arrow points at, Lake Turkana, this is very important. This is a very important site for humanity. Why? Because this area is known as a cradle of human life. there's evidence of primates, human beings, chimpanzees, apes that lived here. According to the scientists, paleontologists, they say that there's evidence of those creatures or people that lived here approximately 4.2 million years ago. Okay. They have found, explain this, putting some notes here. I'll give you 3 examples of things they have found in that area around Lake Turkana. The first thing they discovered was fossils of what they called Australopithecus anamensis. Okay. This discovery indicates that the date of the occurrence of bipedalism. Bipedalism refers to an animal or a human-like being or creature that stands on 2 feet or walks on 2 feet for an extended period of time. So they found bones of a creature that they're not sure whether it was a human being or whether it was an ape, but it clearly had the same kind of bones in its feet that we have as human beings who spend a lot of time on 2 feet. That's the bipedalism. And when they found that bone, they found that that bone was about 4.2 million years ago, old rather. It was not the only major discovery at the same site, Lake Turkana. A Kenyan by the name of Bernard Ngenyeo, with a colleague called Richard Leakey and Neve Leakey. The Leakey family is very prominent in this work of paleontology. They discovered Homo habilis. This is in 1972. And the bones of that Homo habilis creature, which is a human-like creature, animal-like creature, were estimated to be about 1.9 million years old. Now, that's what they estimate. I don't know how true or fake that is, but that's what they say. And then most recently, and also very, very important and significant for us as humanity, is that in 1984, they discovered another fossil, this time the most complete or more complete fossil called Homo erectus. They nicknamed that fossil as Turkana Boy, honoring the name of the lake. And they discovered that, and they say that was about 1.5 million years old. This is a fossil on the left that was discovered, the one that's called Turkana Boy. This one on the left. And it was discovered by a Kenyan gentleman. I thought I should give him some credit. This is the gentleman on the right here, Kamoya Kimeu. Turns out he's actually a Kamba from the tribe I come from. I did not know about this until I started researching this. So that is Mr. Kamoya Kimeu, the late. He passed away last year. And here's a picture of him receiving an award from former president of the US, the late Ronald Reagan. This is documented stuff. This is not hearsay. All right, so that just presents a lot of evidence to show that in this same region, the earliest remains of human beings, the oldest remains of human beings to have ever been found, have been found in this area of Turkana. All right. Last but not least, I will just show you an image here. This was the image I was trying to show sometime last time. This is from the book of Simon Kimbangu, this book here. And according to Kimbangu, he thought the onset of Eden, basically where Eden was in the early times, the scripture, was where you see that rectangle that he drew on the map of Africa. Pretty much the same green area that we were looking at. What is interesting is that it captures those 4 rivers, Pison, or Hiddekel, which is the Nile today, the Zambezi, the Congo River, and Euphrates on the left there. All right, and with that, I will stop sharing and we can switch back to the discussion.